on when Mountlake 9 became Regal Cinebarre Mountlake. Today's Monday, 21 July 2025. I am Tanis Coralee of Seattle, and I reflect on when Mountlake 9 became Regal Cinebarre Mountlake. Grand opening on Friday, 29 May 2009. Mountlake 9 was a theater I went to when I was growing up, and Regal Cinebarre Mountlake is a theater at the same location that replaced Mountlake 9 and is open to adults 21 years of age and up. So yes, so I'm from the Northgate area of Seattle, and Shoreline, Lake Forest Park, Mountlake Terrace are north of Northgate, and Mountlake is kind of one that's closer to like Interstate 5, and Northgate's closer to Interstate 5, so it's been kind of consistency in movie theater place, both me living here in Shoreline and then earlier than that in my life in the Northgate area of Seattle. And if I'm recalling correctly, it was like Mountlake 9 Theaters, which I think was like a reference to the number of auditoriums or theaters it had. And the full name was like Mountlake 9 Theaters or something like that. And then it transitioned to being 21 years of age and up. And when it transitioned to the Regal Cinebarre Mountlake format, I was 16 years of age. So I could not go to the Regal Cinebarre Mountlake. And a lot of my friends and family, so it was just me, my mom and my dad living here. I live with my parents now as well. And even before that, a lot of people in high school, so I was in high school, a lot of people had, were part of a club or some other type of year-long school extracurricular activity, be it like, performance team like drill or cheer or step or flags or whatever, or yearbook. That's not necessarily a performance team, but it was a year-round activity, or like a club, or like a leadership thing, or like the student store and those competitions and that kind of stuff. There were people who were had year-round like choir or band or orchestra or that kind of stuff. Or people who they were year-round swimmers or whatever, and I had none of that. I had work, I had a job, and I had like multiple jobs, okay, and when I was in high school and later on. So, I worked at the YMCA. I wasn't traveling for some school club or team across the United States of America or internationally. And so one of the things I kept all the way through and beyond high school graduation was going to the movies. And so it was actually a bit of a change, because they cut off one of the movie theaters I could go to. I would go to the movies with my family. I would go with my mom. My dad and I went and saw Brad Pitt in The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. Just him and I, if I'm recalling correctly. And then the last couple years of high school, so like 2009, 2010, I went, my theater going buddy was my Aunt Danette. It became our thing, going to the movies. And so, if I'm recalling that time frame correctly. So, movie going has always been a thing. I've had work and I had cinema, and I remember when this change happened, and it was something I lived through. Like, I remember going to the theater and I was like with a friend, and a friend was like, yeah, it's becoming the Cinebarre in the spring, or whatever, or next year, or whatever the time frame was. And I just remember being like, I can't come here anymore. I'm too young by like 5 years. Or like 6 years, because it was before. So it was like a bit of like a, well, that's not going to be an option for me for a while. And so I've been to the Regal Cinebarre Mountlake now. The food is different, so you can get alcohol. It has a bar, like an actual bar. It has food that can be ordered and brought to the seat, ordered at the seat and brought to the seat. It has, like, in addition to popcorn, it has salads, it has pizza, it has meat, it has fried foods, it has popcorn, it has candy, it has pool tables, it has kind of movie posters for the, the current stuff, at least some of them, and then older movies. So it's a very different format than it used to be. And I've enjoyed both, as in I've been to both more than once. It was a transition, and it was something I lived through, and it was something that mattered in my life. And I'd say it's a Mountlake 9 theaters and now Regal Cinebarre Mountlake. It feels like family, and the movie theater, like cinema, always has, because of just how central it has been to, like, it's something that I've, even when it comes to television, I would watch movies on TV. Okay. Movies and the cinema and going to the cinema has been a lifelong hobby that I've even branched off into solo territory on. I've gone to the movie theaters, you know, in Africa and in North America. Like, it's something that I have prioritized as a hobby. And like something that I pay attention to. Like, I paid attention to the actors' names and their careers and stuff like that. So in that sense, Hollywood and cinema more specifically, so maybe not like if it's just an online series, that might not qualify as my family. You have to be at the cinema if you want to make my movie family, my Hollywood family. Is the basic, you got to show up to be a part of my family in that sense. So like Brad Pitt and Lewis Hamilton, my Brad Pitt and my Lewis Hamilton are two of the most recent, not the only, okay, but like two of the most recent to be like, we're still fighting for this in your life story. So on when it became, on when Mountlake 9 became Regal Cinebarre Mountlake, I remember it, I lived it, and I continue to live that legacy by going to Regal Cinebarre Mountlake.